So today I want to talk about what is the best sprayer for you in particular. There's a lot of sprayers out there. They all have their perks and their downfalls, but you know, what's your purpose behind them? What do you need them for? Are you a commercial applicator? Are you a homeowner? Do you have a small nursery? Do you have acreage? Are you a hunter? Do you put in food plots? I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into this. So today we're going to talk about what sprayer is best for you. Which one of these should you pick? I mean, there's a wide variety here. You know, as far as like an ATV tank to a 13-gallon with a hose reel to battery powered to a pump sprayer to a fogger mister from Steel to these little babies. So let's dive right into it. So the most basic of these sprayers you're probably going to get into is going to be something small like this, which is just a little, I think it's a half gallon, it might be a gallon. 50 ounces, so 56 ounces, so less than a half gallon. But then you get into these gallon pump sprayers, a 2-gallon sprayer, and those I think are more designed for the homeowner, the guy who's going to go out and spray the cracks in his driveway with some Roundup or something like that. But you know, they fit their purpose. Some are cheap, some are more expensive. Like, you know, this Scott sprayer right here, I think it was like 30 bucks or something like that. It's rather cheap plastic parts. The nice thing is you know, it's pretty self-explanatory once you get into, you know, this right here. You know, you can just rotate it and you have whatever you want, fan, stream, cone. You know, once you get into something like this is more professional. This is a Chapin Sure Spray Deluxe, and I think these run about $69, something like that. But you know, they have a brass wand. They have a nice filter on the inside of this, a variable nozzle here. So these are pretty nice. This one's kind of been abused and used. It's on its last leg. But you know, as far as like homeowner products, I'd say that's really, you'll be fine. Now, if you're gonna go out and you're gonna, you know, not just spray cracks, you probably want to get into, I don't know, maybe treating the lawn or treating for mosquitoes, things like that. That's when you want to jump up to like a backpack sprayer. And they make a lot of them. There's a lot of pump ones, there's a lot of battery powered ones. I've been dabbling in battery powered this year and I love them. I have 4 battery backpack sprayers. I have a Chapin here. I got this off of Tractor Supply. They're actually pretty hard to find in Tractor Supply, but this thing uses a Black & Decker battery, 4 gallons, on off, 1 speed, 1 pressure. But I found it to be pretty nice. I use this to treat weeds in the woods. And then you get into something like, you know, an A.M. Leonard. This one has 2 speeds, low pressure, high pressure. It's got an extendable wand, so this thing actually extends out. And then it has various tips. Some of these tips, they have high pressure tips and low pressure tips. And so, you know, you get into something like that, and it's really nice. But I do want to say, if you're going to use herbicides and insecticides and fungicides, you need 2 different tanks, and they should be labeled. They should be labeled for herbicides, and you only use it for herbicides, and they should be labeled for insecticides, fungicides, and you only use it for that. Now, I know what I use. I don't have to label them because I do this professionally. So I know what I'm using for herbicides, and I know what I'm using for insecticides. So, you know, as far as a homeowner, say you're treating, you know, I don't know, 20,000 square feet, you'd probably be pretty good with a backpack sprayer like this. You know, price-wise, I think the Chapin here was $179, and an A.M. Leonard was like $385 or $400, something like that. And you know, they do a fantastic job. Now let's dive into mosquito treatments, because that's actually, I do that professionally. That's my business. If you're going to get into that, you know, this goes for homeowners and applicators, you should really assess your situation. Are you going to be spraying, you know, rather, you know, 1 to 2 acre properties? Are they going to be smaller than that? Things like that. I use 3 sprayers. I use one that's for larger properties, one that's for smaller properties, and one that's for organics. And so I chose commercially for the larger properties to use this here. This is a Steel SR 450. And this thing's a beast. You know, it's pretty much a 400, 450 leaf blower with a tank on it, and then that's gravity fed down to that nozzle, which this nozzle is basically, you just pick and choose how much liquid you want to come out. But huge lid. One thing I didn't like is that the readings are only in liters. So over here in the United States, we don't really use liters. So I had to go and make my own marks for gallons. Now you could do the calculations, but let's be honest, time's money. So this was a very simple fix. This thing works great. I know Steel also makes smaller versions. I think there's like the 430, and then there's also one even smaller that's like a 3 or a 2 something. But this one's pretty heavy. You know, that's another thing. That's another factor in all of this is weight. So when you get into this unit without any liquid is 30 some odd pounds. And then you add 3 gallons of liquid, and now you're in the 50 to 60 pound range. So this is not for the weak. You're gonna lug this around, you're gonna wanna move as fast as possible and get as much material out as you can because it's heavy. You know, if you're doing mosquito treatments in a smaller yard, I would go back to one of these. They really do a fantastic job. They atomize well. I've been using them on my smaller properties, no issue. Now, why you want to differentiate between a battery backpack sprayer or a motorized one is the amount of volume and drift potential. So that over there, I mean, it just throws out material. So the drift potential is huge with that. With this, you can kind of change this to a stream, to a mist, and the drift potential is much, much less. You wouldn't want to use one of those or one of those for doing mosquito treatments. You're going to need a lot more product, and they won't do the job. So, but for applying for a small lawn, fungicide, I wouldn't even go insecticides. I wouldn't even use those little gallon or 2 gallon sprayers to do any sort of lawn treatments. I'd jump straight to a backpack. Now, there's different backpacks, and we'll get into them. Price points, and then what's good and what's bad about them. So here we have a Chapin. This is the same Chapin, so this is the other side that you're seeing, the straps, the harnesses. This right here is a Chapin. Like I said, this is $149. This harness is really nice. A.M. Leonard, I bought this. I think I was one of the first people to ever buy this, and I told them that their harness was subpar, to say the least, because all they give you is this. There's no connection points like this. There's no back brace. There's not even, you know, there's like 6, 7, 8 inches of padding here. And this slides around. I mean, let's be honest, this is a joke. But I appreciate A.M. Leonard because they sent me another one for free with a new harness, and I appreciate that. I still think it needs tweaking, but this right here is their new model they sent me, and I'm gonna use this for organic treatments, but you can see the actual strap is much larger. It's much more secure. They have connection points. I mean, it's super nice. And then we get to the mother of all backpack sprayers, I think, which is a Flow Zone. This harness, I'd say, is 25 to 30% of the price. This thing is seriously a leaf blower harness. This thing has a better harness than my Steel 450 down there at the end, which that to me is insane. Like, Steel needs to step up their game, because if a battery backpack sprayer has a better harness than a 60-pound leaf blower mister, they need to reevaluate what the hell they're doing. But, you know, once you get into treating larger areas, once you get into mosquito treatments, you know, 10,000 plus square feet of treating the lawns, you know, you're really going to want to step into this realm. So price-wise, I think this Flow Zone's like $411. Battery powered, they send you the charger, they send you everything. One thing that's cool about the Flow Zone is the actual gun, which this is dirty from using blue dye, but it's actually a pressure washer tip. So you can swap out different pressure washer tips, and those are pretty easy to find, where some of these other sprayers, they have, you know, there are certain tips that you got to put on, or you got to modify a wand or anything like that. And yeah, now we're going to jump into larger areas. So if we jump into larger areas, okay, I just got this actually a couple days ago, but this is the Petra Prime. This is a 13-gallon battery sprayer, and I gotta say, initial thoughts, I love this thing, but it has a purpose. It's not universal, I don't think. It's got a 100-foot hose wand, so you can put a wand on this or a high pressure gun, and the hose, the reel works fantastic. I've already talked to Petra on some modifications that I would make personally, but overall, this thing's sweet. You could park this in the middle of an acre and probably treat the entire acre, which is fantastic, right? You can go 100 foot that way, 100 foot back this way, 100 foot that way. So, 200 by 200, that's almost an acre, just shy. But that's fantastic, that's awesome. I also think that this is designed more to be on concrete. So what realm that would put this in would be, a small nursery, a mom and pop nursery, even a commercial nursery maybe, because of the wheels. The wheels are somewhat small for what it is. This is a 13-gallon tank, and those wheels on grass, those casters on grass, those pretty tiny. I would modify that if you intend to, put that in a large grass setting. I would even attempt to put this on gravel. But they give you this toolbox, 2 ways to turn it on, full blast with this red button, or you can turn this up and it's variable, which is pretty sweet. Largemouth lid. Another thing that I want to show off with this Petra that I didn't even say to them when they sent it to me, but look at this design. Okay, we gotta crawl under here. This is the drain port, and it's at like the lowest point. So all you gotta do is tilt the cart down, and all of the water drains to this. Also, the pump is to a low point, which is super intelligent. Most people don't do that. And I'm gonna show you what I mean. Because once you get to this is for large acreage. This is a 25-gallon Fimco boomless sprayer, they call it. It's got a 4.5-gallon pump per minute. So this thing's a beast, right? I think it's maxed out at 60 PSI when it does run. But what the flaw is to this Fimco is this inlet. So this is on one side of the tank. And why that is absolutely despicable is because if you're riding down the road or the terrain or wherever you are and you're tilted the wrong way, all the liquid that's supposed to be going here is on the other side of the tank. So then the pump runs out, it's not primed, you can't spray anything. So now you have to plan your route to where you're only riding on a certain hill in order to get the rest out. Fimco should honestly redesign this, put this at a low point, taper the tank, and it would be much, much better. Anybody that's out there designing sprayers should always put their inlets at low points. That's a huge pet peeve of mine with this thing, is that I have to be in a certain angle in order to do it. And I've figured out ways to counteract it. I could put a block of wood on the other side and ratchet it down, and it's gonna look all frickin' crooked, but it'll keep the liquid going to that one spot. To a certain degree, once you get to a certain, grade of hill, it's not gonna help at all. But I do like this sprayer when it does work, when it is primed. This thing, it throws out the product. I actually, shout out to, I believe it's Mostly Green on Instagram. He told me to go out and buy some T-Jet tips, and he told me what ones to buy. These things are the VP4s. These things are awesome. They throw out a super coarse product. Nice area to load it up in. The gun is nice. I might modify this so that way it's a pressure washer tip head, but it sits on the ATV nice. It does its job, it does spray, but that inlet right here is just an absolute joke being on the end. It should be in the center here, and this tank should taper down. But large acreage, if you gotta go out and treat, I live on 10 acres. So my side yard over here is I think 44,000 square feet. And then I have, some other areas. If I wanted to fertilize the lawn, I would throw it in that thing and just cruise and fertilize the lawn. I wouldn't use a spreader. That's more designed for the smaller acreage. So really, the best sprayer for you gotta pick, but you gotta really think logically, what are you doing? Are you just spraying the cracks? Do you have, a decent amount of area? What's your time worth? Do you wanna pump stuff? Because I'm sick of pumping stuff. I love that everything's going to battery as far as sprayers going. unbelievably amazing. One sprayer I do want to get is the Milwaukee Quick Change. That one is probably going to be a good pick because you keep the base, you keep the motor and the power, but you change the actual tank. So you could run the same power head but have herbicide tank and an insecticide tank, and all you need is a different tank. So that's something I'm going to probably get into later. But yeah, this is what I got. I've got a lot of years, a lot of experience with sprayers, and really it's just a matter of what you need and thinking it out. There's a lot of choices out there. If you have a couple acre yard and you just want to go out there, fill up one tank and spray it all, I would highly recommend the Petra. This thing is sweet, especially with that hose reel. You can go out there and just spray away. The thing sprays 30 feet. It atomizes if you just pull the trigger a little bit. You can hook up a wand to it. You know, if you want to do some herbicide spraying or, a smaller yard, I would go with a battery powered. My favorite so far is the Flow Zone. That thing is the whip. And then, if you want to do some mosquito treatments or anything like that, I'd go with the steel atomizer. But only if you have large acreage and there's little chance of drift. So far, I haven't had any issue with any of these sprayers, minus the A.M. Leonard with the crappy straps, the crappy harness. But like I said, they made good on it. They sent me one for free with a new design, which I truly appreciate that to A.M. Leonard. I'd still tweak it. If you're going to spend that much money, you should definitely design it to where you're going to carry 30 pounds on your back and not be phased. Another thing to think about when you're getting into all this stuff, if you get into the batteries, which I highly recommend going battery and not pump sprayers, I would look into the battery chargers and the batteries. Like that whole Milwaukee one I was just talking about. The batteries that go into that sprayer, you can put into a variety of other tools, so it makes sense. Whereas all of these, like my Chapin right here, that's Black & Decker. So if I had Black & Decker tools, I could swap it out and have the same batteries, which is super convenient, super nice. Most other things, that has their own proprietary battery. So something to think about. But I hope this helped you decide what sprayer you need for the purpose that you need it. Other than that, I know this channel was designed to be more of a educational channel poison ivy wise, but I did want to talk about sprayers because that's a part of being a pesticide applicator. So it's pretty important to know what to buy, when to buy it. You go down this whole road of buying all these other ride-on sprayers and things like that. For me, I'll just use that ATV right there for quite some time if I need it, which I talked to Petra. I would love to put this reel on here. So maybe I get rid of the gun up top, but mount the reel in the back and have the reel and the boom. Because having a 100-foot hose on an ATV would be sweet. You park it, just walk and do your thing. But hope this helps, and you guys have a fantastic day. So another thing I wanted to ask you guys, if you like this content, please like and subscribe, leave me a comment. Let's talk about sprayers. What one do you like best? What do you use? What positive things you have to say? What negative things you have to say? Maybe, these companies will actually listen and make adjustments because we the people say so. So like, subscribe, comment. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much.